Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. As always, I am excited as I could be to introduce our guest to you. But before I do, we'd like to thank the Mighty Quinn Brass and Winds at brassandwinds.com. Here at the Willow School, when we sell and, here at the Willow School, when we have, let me try this one more time. When we do brass and wind instrument lessons, we usually recommend Mighty Quinn Brass and Winds for sales. They've been terrific to us over the years, and we're so excited to partner with them. You are watching Truer MU, where you can learn about the truth about music, and you can explore videos of interviews as well as courses. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest to you. Mr. Tim Davies is the Regional Vice President and General Manager of Radio One, an urban radio network broadcasting in 13 markets with 16 million weekly listeners. His responsibilities include brand marketing, station buildouts, FCC guidelines, program development in all formats, and more. Tim Davies, what a privilege to have you with us here. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's great to be here, Adam. Really do appreciate it.
So your job is to work with radio, and I'm going to say that ever since I was a kid, there was always something magical about the radio for me. And it's very interesting. Radio has been around. It predates television, and it's still around today after we've gone through 5 or 6 format changes. Working in radio, can you give me some insight into what is the magic of radio? Why does it still have the power to captivate people?
You know, that is a great question. I think that, and it really kind of goes down to what you heard when you first started listening. You know, there's a connection that's a one-on-one connection. The delivery mechanism happens to be radio, but it's really the content. So if it's your favorite on-air personality, if it's some music that you love that you couldn't hear anywhere else, if you were something it was perhaps a talk show, that is a topic that you need to learn more information about. So, you know, with that, you get this great connection. And then in addition to that, it's also theater of mind. It allows you to think of things inside your head about what it sounds like. Kind of like when you're reading a book, right? You read a book and you have an idea of who that character is. You have an idea of, you know, what that meadow looks like. You know, you have an idea about what the building looks like. And then they go and make a movie about it. And it absolutely changes, you know, at least one perception of what it is. So radio allows you to do that as an audio medium.
Well, let me be a little more specific with my question, because nowadays radio is not the only way you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're not just talking about competing with television, we're talking about competing with streaming services. I mean, everything you talked about can be done through the internet now, but there is something about radio that's different. What is it that's different about, say, Spotify?
Well, I think a couple things. I think that when you're thinking about why someone will choose their time to spend with something, and you know, if you have something that's extremely compelling, they're going to listen to it on the stream, or they're going to listen to it on radio, or if it's on Spotify, or whatever it is. In our particular case, we're free, and we always have been free, and we always will be free. There are a lot of people that can't afford to buy XM radio or different options in order to get the content. But I think in this particular case, one, that it's content that you may not get from somewhere else, but it's also too with local radio. You're talking about your local city. Spotify doesn't do that. XM radio doesn't do that. You know, we just had a storm come through Atlanta. All our stations and TV stations are running warnings about, you know, what that severe weather is. If you're listening to Sirius XM, or you're listening to Spotify, or you're listening to an audiobook, you're not aware of what's going on. So there's immediate things that radio allows you to do that most of those other services do not, and that's why there's also that immediate connection that you're listening to something that appeals to you.
That's fascinating. So you're talking about Radio has the immersion that we're looking for, but it also has the connection that is lacking in the mediums that have tried to replace it.
Yeah, I really think so. And you also have to think about it. We're a digital product. We've always been a digital product. So, even though you and I are talking about radio right now, we're a multimedia company where we're pushing out content. I've just set up cameras and studios where we're posting things on Twitch. It's the content that we're pushing out. It just depends on where someone wants it and how we can give them something, whether it's a podcast. We have podcasts that we do. So it's really goes to that digital. And the other thing is we are the original social media. If you kind of think about it, if you kind of think about some of the conversations that are started on talk shows or on Howard Stern or any of the major shows that we have, on my Ricky Smiley show, that is the conversation that people then will talk about. And then, yes, there's lots of social media platforms out there, but they're talking about something that's very relative and also has a very big reach. A lot of our stations and a lot of our networks have just massive millions and millions of people that listen. And then we have them engaged in our social media with our brands. So it really is a way to engage with our audience. And we use different technology to talk to our audience as well.
Yeah, but the difference seems to be that you're using these other technologies to augment what you're doing with the radio rather than replace it, which I think is significant.
Yeah, I had a conversation. I was at an event about 2 weeks ago, and I was talking to an on-air personality that's been in the business for a while, and we also know of how to connect with the audience, and I think that when you are being brought up in a TikTok society and a way to push out your information, you're basically just pushing out that information, right? You're posting it, and then you're saying, okay, how many people are liking it? Or maybe I'll do a chat dialogue with that person. But there's really not a connection with the receiver of that information. So in our particular case, if it's and in Atlanta, we have if I just take like Ryan Cameron, who does afternoons for us on Magic 107.5, 97.5. He's having immediate conversations with people that are calling in. He's having immediate conversations with different politicians and different important things that are going on. And people are listening and they're connecting because they know it's Atlanta. And that's not the same as pushing some information out and then someone just kind of gets it. There's really that connection. I think that's kind of lacking a little bit. But if Ryan posts something on his social media and then he's connecting, and as you said, he's augmenting that information, which is very fun. And then it can go in a whole different direction, on the stream, or go different connection on his social media. So it can be a lot of fun, but it starts with that amazing content.
Yeah, so if I'm promoting my music, my songs, and I have my YouTube channel and I have my Spotify playlist, that's me pushing my stuff. But if it's on the radio, if a song is on the radio, then there's somebody sending that song to you that doesn't own that song. It's them giving that song to you. That's music specific content I'm talking about. And maybe some of our listeners are songwriters and are curious about that.
Yeah, so and that's a good point. You have a lot of new music that is out there, always has been out there. But how are you found? I mean, I'm sure you can stream it. I'm sure you can do this, you can do that, and that's fine. But if someone's going on Spotify, they're already picking what music they want. If you're driving down the road, and I'm just using radio as an example, and then all of a sudden you hear a new song. It's Beyonce's new gospel song that just broke Friday, and you hear that, and yeah, you could hear it, and you had no idea because you know what? Guess what? Yeah, you're writing music and you're doing different things, and it's like, okay, wow, okay, let me check that out, and then it directs you to how to check it out, and then you just Google search it, or you can pull it up on YouTube or whatever, and then that way it does. But if you hadn't been introduced to it in a different way, um, you know, but if you're like writing music and you're trying to get that exposure, there's many ways that you can do that around the country, and even with our company, we do a lot of new artists. I just held a concert at Georgia State University called Birthday Bash Saturday night, and 5 of the artists that were on the main stage are all new artists. So here they get to do a platform. They get promoted. Their songs get promoted. And yeah, we had 2 Chainz, and we had names that you really know, but there are a number of names that you didn't know. And that's the beautiful thing of then being able to do a live showcase. And Spotify and XM and all those cats, I'm sorry, they're not doing that. That's not their wheelhouse. So our media companies are, and not just us, but we're a little bit more aggressive because of our artists. It's really to have a platform for them to not just on air, but also to do an event, and then to do something else that engages the audience. It's outstanding.
You have been involved in radio since the beginning. You started with at UGA with an ABJ journalism degree, mass communication, and you've been in radio since then. It's very unusual these days to meet someone who's only done one thing their whole life. How does that? Is that just a coincidence? Did you just get lucky staying in radio, or have you just been driven to stay in radio? Why are you only doing one thing?
Yeah, so it's interesting you say one thing, and I think that's, I've never heard it positioned that way, but one field. I think that's the thing. So yeah, no, I mean, I went to the fine University of Georgia, go Dogs, and but I went there because they had a college called Grady College, and the Peabody Awards were based there, and that's about all I really knew. All I knew is they did great, exceptional journalism, and they also had a mass media department. And I went, okay. So, and I go to school there. And then, I had lots of jobs during college, like most people do, but I didn't want to be a house painter. I don't know. Or I liked washing dishes, but, I didn't think that was going to be good. But, I had to pay the bills, I had to pay for my car. But when I did an internship at a TV station in Charlotte, and then I realized, hey, this is kind of a fun business because you can be creative. So I went to that, and then my first station in Augusta. And then after that, I found a passion for the medium. I mean, you can write and you can create, and I love writing copy. I love creating commercials. I love creating promotional things. And then over the years, going to Houston, it's a major market, and then promoted and grew, and then added stations, and then added more stations, and then added when it was Clear Channel, I was in charge of doing both. When we bought Lamar Advertising, which is a billboard company, and we were merging radio and billboards, and then we added TV division, and then we created the company, but I was part of the strategy, Clear Channel Entertainment. So we had 3 divisions, and then Clear Channel Entertainment turned into this company. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's called Live Nation.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So for me, then, even though I was in the same field, I was able to grow and learn and really kind of maneuver and understand how our medium was embracing a lot of different people. And then with that, it was a lot of fun. And then it's also working with TV stations with it, and then regional vice president, and then popped over to the great city of Atlanta 14 years ago. And in my case, I've got 5 syndicated shows that I oversee that are national brands. I've got 4 stations. I've got a slew of digital people. And every day is a blast. I mean, last week alone, I had the Stellar Awards, which I don't know if anybody is familiar with the Stellar Awards, but they're in Atlanta now. And it's the premier awards for the inspirational formats and gospel formats. So we were hosting a lot of events last week. But on Wednesday, we hosted 22 different artists, a lot of them new, and interviewed them in the offices and the studios. And then with that, we have new content. So, it goes back to the music, and it goes back to the artist, and it goes back to that connection with the audience. And then at the same time, we were promoting our hip hop show at a stadium with new artists. Uh, uh, so, and I'm overseeing the events and everything else. So it's so to answer your question, yeah, I've had one job, but it's kind of
You wear a lot.
grown, and it's like all these expectations and all these things. And then in the meantime, though, it's a blast. I got to, I love it, and I still love it. I really do, and it's really the teamwork of the people that are I'm working with, because they're extremely creative. We have celebrity. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, you have people like Debrat, who's amazing. Ricky, who's a national syndicated and comedian, and the conversations that we have are a blast, right? But then they create stuff, and then we create things, and that's really that's what it's all about. Kind of like when you're writing your music, that zone when you're creating something. There's nothing like it. And I happen to like to paint. When I paint, I like to create. But when you're writing copy, or you're coming up with ideas about how to do a talent search, that we did Friday night, all the talent search that we did at the Belief Club, which is right down the street. New artists, and the new artists got to perform on the stage. So, and that to me is fulfilling, because you're like, oh my God, we just helped this person, and that's pretty cool. Spotify can't do that.
That's neat. You have always been involved in the selling side of radio to some extent, the business side. I don't know, from what I know of your career, you've never sold anything else. What is different about selling radio, or is it different from selling something else?
I think it's all pretty much the same. You're trying to, someone's got an issue, and you're trying to help them solve that issue. And it really could be anywhere from, hey, I need to recruit people, right now, because I'm having trouble finding qualified applicants. Well, we've got a whole bunch of people that we reach. Maybe there's a way to do that. Maybe it's like, hey, look, I've got this opening up a whole bunch of new businesses, and I let people know about it. And your audience is exactly who I want to do. So I think that part of it is the same as any kind of sales, right? Whether it's insurance or everybody's in sales. The president is selling you on the whatever issue, or everybody's in sales in some way. Your kids. Kids are sales, but they're salespeople, man. I tell you, you don't think a little 2-year-old who smiles at you and waves, you're like, you're sold. You're like, all right. So that, I think that's it. And then having the other part of it is having a good career where you have a good livelihood. And that's also too, because I've been blessed to be able to support my family and raise kids, and do that based on my career. And I don't ever not thank God for that every day, because that's a very fortunate thing, especially when you're an adult and you're responsible for people. To have a livelihood, that's kind of cool.
There's the common story, it may be just urban myth of chefs who go home after cooking all day and they have just a peanut butter sandwich for dinner, just because they're just done cooking, they don't need it. So what's your relationship to the music that you promote? I mean, is it only in the job, or do you take this music home with you? What do you listen to?
Yeah, so over the years, I've had all different formats that I've worked with. I've worked with classic rock. I've worked with I've had stations I've overseen that are country and all, but really my favorite is the formats that our company does, which is everything targeted for the Black community. So it's R&B, and it's hip hop, and it's classic R&B, and it's news, and it's hip hop. So we have a lot of different genres within it, just like in country's got young country and old country and classic country, and so if you really like country, the kind of thing. So for me, I've always loved funk, R&B from the 70s. I'm old. But I was like, I was jamming out in the '70s, man. I was loving me some OJs and Earth, Wind and Fire, and then disco, and and we'd go dancing and all. But it just really, and then I mean, that's all I really kind of listened to. But I love Blondie and all that. But I find that listening to it, the only problem though is when I start listening to our stations, I'm listening to it as a critical ear. All right. It's kind of like, I'm sure your music, you listen to your own music and then all of a sudden you listen to it and you're like, oh, wait a minute. I could have played that note differently. Or, I could have, I could have added this portion of it. It's kind of the same way, I'm listening to the stations like, oh, that liner didn't sound good. Or, maybe they should have done that differently. And then we have hotline numbers and, it's like the principal calling the off, it's like, oh, I have to do that. But in that case, it can be a little challenging to listen to your own products because you just can't listen to it the same way. And I'd say that's anybody that's in media that's responsible for content. All my friends that are news directors, and they're watching their news and the general managers are always watching it. And it's like, hey, we should get better on that swing or the recycling that. You just can't enjoy it. So for me, I'll listen to. I love NPR. I think it's probably one of the best products out there when it comes to a very level, in-depth reporting. So for me, if you're asking me what I like to listen to, I listen to NPR. I listen to my own stations. I listen to a lot of. Sometimes, like if I get nostalgic, I want to listen to like '70s or '80s. I'll do that. You know, But then my wife, who's younger, is like, "Who is that?" I go, "Well, the group is called Bread." Okay. Oh, I was 4 years old when that came out. Great. But there's something about John Denver or, something that's just like, it's just so comfortable. It's just like, give me some James Taylor. Okay. Give me some Earth, Wind and Fire. Oh yeah. So no, I'm across the board and I like country, but I don't listen to as much as I could. But I just love all kinds of music. It's about emotion and the passion. And I have so much respect for the artists that I've met over the years and the work that they have to put into their careers.
I love your ecumenical attitude towards music. It's really great. I do want to ask you a question that may be a little more challenging, and if it's uncomfortable, you don't have to answer it. But you are working in an urban radio environment, which is largely African American, and we're living in a very polarized time racially. Do you find you are welcome in that community? Are you seen as perhaps an interloper or someone who didn't grow up as part of the scene? But you loved the music, but you didn't grow up in the environments that created the music. How are you seen in that regard? Are you brought in? Is there any pushback? What's the story there?
Yeah, that's no, that's a good question. Look, um, the understanding of who I am inside and what I can do to help, I think started when I went to go first work at on Magic 102 in Houston, Texas in 1988. So I went from working in Augusta, Georgia, which Augusta's Augusta. I liked it. But I also worked for a station called Sunny 105. Sunny 105. Okay. So here it is, young white dude, drinking beers at the Red Lion pub and selling advertising to that. And then going back to pretty much one of the top Black stations in the country in Houston, Texas, which is Texas. So, it was a white guy selling Black radio in Houston, Texas. But in that case, I learned a lot. And I also learned about racism, hardcore understanding, because they felt because I was white, that they could talk to me, even though we're talking about the Black community. Which is fine. I mean, just got to go understand. And sometimes they're just uneducated; they don't understand. So in that case, it could be a benefit. As far as acceptance, I think it's people are watching how you address things and what you're passionate about. And I worked at that station and all those, basically many of those years, all in Black media. and was promoted, which, you know, I knew about the business. But really then my passion was really the, not just the music, but all the community involvement that we had, and fighting for principles. I happen to be a very forward thinking person. So a lot of my principles match up with a lot of folks I work with, the same way as my belief in God. So that was helped. But no, it's been a journey, Adam, over the years to embrace and moving forward to 3 years ago, when with the social unrest and the demonstrations, and how we're doing it, and very important in Atlanta about how we address it in the media. So I learned a lot, and then I continue to learn. I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, probably the best thing I did was go through Leadership Atlanta, which I was in class of 2000. I just came from a meeting from there. But you get your eyes opened with people that allow you to learn more. And I realized how much I did not understand about the Black community, and so many things that, you know, that's a whole different podcast for you.
Right.
But ultimately, I just have a calling, and this is for me, how I can help, how we can make social change, how we can do different things. And oftentimes it's the white guy that has to do it. And I think that's kind of what we came out of the demonstrations was, uh, my Black brothers and sisters, they already know what the issues are. It's people that look like me that have to make changes. So I do what I do, which is put things in place, use our resources to make those issues come to light. Whether it's oh, earlier this year going against the state house, tied to the first time is House Bill 892 for all education. You can name it, all different ways of how they're changing education in all the bills. And then doing campaigns against that, targeting congressmen to vote a different way or not have it come out of committee. And then they merged it over the weekend, and then we had more campaigns on, and there were lots of other demonstrations against it. But at the same time, there's a lot of stuff going through the state house. So to me, it's like, how do we use our media to do that? And again, me in this role as a white man, I hope I can make a difference. And I encourage all white men that are silent or whatever. So they're going through transformations. Everybody's going through transformations, and women's rights right now are attacked more than anybody, and that's something that is implorable of what this Supreme Court is doing. So are we doing some things on there? Yeah, I mean, I've got mental health professionals on the air talking, helping people, doing things like that. So in my role, whether it's as a white man, that's kind of how I feel about things. And I've had people, I had one ex board op employee who tried to say negative things about me because I was white. It's like, bring it. And plus you don't even know what you're talking about. But it's also too, this is an amazing country where you can have freedom of speech, you can say what you want. And I stand by it every day because we have that opportunity to do that. That's a very long answer to your question.
No, I let you continue to talk because I admire your candor and your honesty and your humility. I mean, you're not pretending to have all the answers. You're willing to listen to serious criticism of who you are, even if it's not in your control. And you're trying to learn and grow from that. And you're being active. So you stand for something. And I think that's great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's maybe move to a related but slightly lighter version of this topic. Are you from Atlanta? Did you grow up here as a child?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I don't know.
You might be familiar with the radio station that I listened to when I was a child. It was called Z93. And it was a big, it was the top 40 station. And I spent a lot of time from probably between the ages of 6 and 9 or 10 listening to that. And it had a formative influence on me. And when I was listening to Z93, as I think back, I was listening on the one station to country music, light country, Kenny Rogers, that kind of stuff. I was listening to R&B, Earth, Wind and Fire, Donna Summer, and I was listening to rock and roll, proto rock and roll and things like that. It was all there in one station, in one format. That's gone now. Radio stations are very polarized too. And I'd like to hear your take on that. Is that a good thing? Is there a way to get back to it? Should we even try? For me, it was great.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know I agree with you. There's different ways to do it, but there are choices that people have. So if we're talking about music, right? And let me give you an example of another station that was here, Smooth Jazz. Okay. I know you're a huge jazz. You
Yeah.
love jazz. Okay.
Jazz
I got it.
hardcore. So smooth jazz to me is a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, I know. And so when I moved here in 2008, there was Jazz 107.5 Smooth Jazz. That was our station. And one of the things that we know about jazz is that it's hard to define. Most will say, "Oh, jazz. That's that jazz down in New Orleans. Yeah, I love that." Or someone will say, "Oh man, God, I Kenny G is my guy." I'm telling her. Or Pat Metheny. Oh yeah, that's jazz. That's jazz. That other stuff's not jazz. And then someone will say, you know what? I think Return to Forever and Chick Corea and Billy Cobham were the best dang band and ever. And that's real jazz, man. That's when things were really experiment. I mean, so the format then is you try to have a format, like you're saying, that tries to appeal to all those different people that have different opinions of what that genre should be. And then that's why people would then say, you know what, I'm just going to play my CD. It's in my car because I really want to listen to Pat Metheny. That's my stuff, and that station's not going to do it. So we found that the audience really then it was fragmented. So we made it go away. And I put my R&B station on there. And, because it's just from a business model, if you don't have much audience, an advertiser's not going to spend money with you because, you're not reaching that audience. And that's just the way it is. So anyway, so when it comes to formats, you got to make sure that the format and how it's formatted with the music is going to be appealing. Now, that's the good news. The bad news is there are companies and formatic music that's out there that has really not helped because they're playing the same kind of music all over the place and they don't localize it. And nothing wrong with my other competitors that are out there, but they do it a lot more than we do. We're very focused in the Black community. That's what we do. I mean, yeah, we just bought stations in Indianapolis. We close next month. So we have News Talk and we have others, and in Charlotte we purchased a cluster and we swapped some stations, and we have News Talk and we have your top 40, and sports, so there's some art, but predominantly all we do is that. So our music calls are, hey, what are the new artists? What's banging in Indianapolis? What's happening in Dallas? What's happening in Houston? What's happening in Atlanta? Is that working? Oh yeah, it's getting good traction, that kind of thing. So we're pretty focused on the music that we're playing, but going back to formats that are all over the board, not much, and they also cost a lot of money. And the COVID and the last couple of years has been very challenging for all businesses trying to stay in business and also provide something with less people, which has been a little challenging, but we're starting to build back up.
Well, let me push back on you just a little bit and challenge you just a touch here. Now, I don't know how much YouTube surfing you do, but there are these interesting programs where they get these people. For instance, it may be, a Black man, 40 years old, and he's never heard Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody. And they
Yes.
put it on, and you watch this guy go, oh my God.
It's
and then
great.
And they do the same thing with a white person that's never heard,
Yeah.
these videos get tons and tons of views because one, it's astounding, like for somebody like me, like, okay, I love Bruce Springsteen, and there's people out there who've never heard him, like millions of people. And I was like, this man changed my life. How could you have never heard him? And then they hear him and it's like, oh, he's R&B influenced. Oh, he sounds like this. Oh, listen to that groove. So is there a place for that in radio, or is it just not going to happen in the radio?
Yeah, so I think it's not just radio, but it's all content. So a lot of people don't have a lot of time. I mean, they do. surf and stuff, and now more podcasts. You get to choose what you want to listen to because you only have a certain amount of time, kind of like when we started. But when it came to um, different content that you can get on YouTube, uh, that's great. You know, it's a platform to provide that. Can we do the same thing? Not so much, because that same person that's like, oh, hey, I just heard Bruce Springsteen right after I just heard Frankie Beverly and Maze. Well, the person listening to Frankie Beverly and Maze doesn't want to hear no damn Bruce Springsteen. They might, but they just, I'll see you. I'll go somewhere else that I can listen to it. So that's not kind of what it's for with it. Now, on the other hand, we might play a brand new Kim song, or play a song that they haven't heard, or an artist that maybe they just, they just started hearing and they're like, I kind of like that. What is that song, Lotto? What, it's kind of, yeah, that's that song. Okay, I kind of like that. I dig that. So we'll play different artists within the genre, and maybe there will be stuff. I mean, we just listened to Erica Campbell's got a brand new song called Positivity, and it's broke, and it's on the gospel charts, but it's crossing over to urban AC. So you have a very strong, I don't know if you know who Erica Campbell is, but she's one of our folks, and she's also an amazing inspirational artist. If you ever heard of Mary Mary, it's her and her sister, but this is her first song that's crossing over for herself. They've got huge top hits, but this one, and I heard it yesterday, it was amazing. So we're going to play it on the urban AC station. So in that case, then someone hears, oh, that's an inspirational artist. Who's that? Oh, I kind of like that. That's pretty cool. Well, there you go. But we ain't going to be playing Bruce Springsteen next to Mary Mary. Right? Yeah. So that's kind of how that is.
So you're treading a little more carefully. You are trying to put variety in, but it's a narrower variety.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. If you go to I don't know, your coffee house up the street, and then all of a sudden half of the drinks, or half of the pastries aren't pastries anymore, and they're selling hamburgers. You're like, I don't want any of that. Where's my pastries? I like that variety of pastries. I really like that buckle. I really like that, but where's that? Well, it's kind of the same way. When you got a business, you give product, that's why they come to the store. That's why they come to the station. That's why they go streaming. That's why they come to our online. That's why they come to our different devices. That's why they pull us up on Alexis. That's why they pull us on Google, is because, they know what they're going to get. And then we can give them a little different stuff.
So this is the business of radio, and it makes perfect sense to me. You've been doing this 30 years. Of course, you know what you're talking about. And yet you also have an activist side, which you've clearly enunciated for us. These two things are at odds. You want to bring people together, but you also want to keep them separate so you can sell to them. Do you see the conflict, and what do you do with that?
Oh, no, it's not conflict. It's the other way around. It's what our audience expects. So let's just say, let me just think of a good example. In Black media and other kinds of media, that Hispanic media, or I'm just using because that's our world. There's things that we do that nobody else will do, and it's nothing wrong. But there's let's just say Juneteenth. Okay, well, we've been celebrating Juneteenth for quite some time, and the heritage of it, and why. And then it, recently became a federal holiday. Well, if you listen to most of the other stations, especially white stations, they sure in the hell weren't talking about no Juneteenth. I can tell you that. So, yeah, do we do things? Yeah. Do we support peaceful demonstrations? Yes. Voices should be heard. This is America. Do we support things that, get a little confrontational? Yeah, a little bit, but that's what our audience wants. I mean, we're their station. It's not us, it's theirs. So if they want us to do things, and yeah, if someone hears something that is, get your dang diabetes checked right now, this is how you do it. Or I've got a counselor on the air talking about what to do with suicide, and they they immediately call a suicide line and they are helped. I don't know if that's that's activists, that's responsibility. And, we are governed by the FCC, but each of the broadcasters that we're blessed to have the licenses, we have a responsibility to the community. And that's where your digital side does not have that. They're not, and that's the issues with the billions of dollars associated with telecom bills in the White House, or I mean up in DC. They don't have, Google and they don't have social responsibility. They don't have to have campaigns to promote voting. They don't have, I just did my event and then we have a New Georgia Project out there registering people to vote. I mean, those are things that we need to do, man, and that's why we do them, and we're doing this big campaign and just freaking launching it with all Black stations in the city, once again, uniting to give information about voting. And that's real, because as you know, in Georgia, we have got more people need to learn about all the changes in the elections. They need to know about if they're registered. They need to know about where to go. And the misinformation that's out there from various sources can help change it. So our job is to make sure that we're getting the right information out in a simple way on stations and medium that they trust, and that they're going to get the right information. And so, yeah, no, it's actually part of what we do. It's part of our DNA.
So you're coming back to serving your community, connecting with your people, and making change that way, making sure you're empowering the people that you're working with, and not trying to conquer the world, just trying to make a difference with the folks that you reach.
Yeah, and that's the same with our syndicated shows. So, Ricky Smiley, we're in 89 markets around the country. He does the same thing, very socially aware, a lot of things on a daily basis that you'll hear that are comments that are tied into it. Now, granted, I've got to deal with Dish Nation, which is actually recorded in the same offices as ours. So yeah, you'll see Head Crack, and you'll see DeBrat, and you'll see Gary with the T, and it's called Dish Nation because they're dishing, right? So then you have all the entertainment stuff. So like last night they had Fedra, who's a Real Housewife, and I was watching it for a minute, and they're dishing, and that's not necessarily journalistic qualities, and they're not really going after it. So there's the entertainment factor too, that we also have on our stations, that to make sure that people are up to date. But they also want that too, because you're driving down the road, you're going to work, you probably don't like the job you're going to, right? And then all of a sudden you hear you just start laughing because the Ricky's talking about something, or he's got a bit that he's doing, or Gary, and you just start laughing, and it just makes your day. And then that's pretty cool. And then we hit him with oh yeah, by the way, you got to register to vote.
So you have talked about radio, and you seem very comfortable with the way radio has changed over the last 30 years or so. And you seem, to indicate that it's changed because the world has changed. Would you agree with that statement?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it continues to change.
Yes. If that's the case, then how are you thinking ahead? How is the world is changing fast, and it is not going to look like it looks now, even in 10 years. I think it's going to be a radically different world in 10 years. Are you thinking about that? And what's the future of radio?
Yeah. So, it's interesting. Over the years, the same question's been asked. Let's see. Again, I'm old. Oh my gosh. 8-track tapes. Why are people going to listen to radio? Oh my God. Cassettes. Oh my God. It's always some technology for people to use that are going to take time away from it. I think we stay relevant with our audience that we do. We know the audience is shrinking. No lie, it is. But it also, broadcast TV has shrunk dramatically because they have these things called Hulu and Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime, good. I can like order my cucumbers, and oh yeah, by the way, I can also watch the TV. And then broadcast networks and local stations. They're working hard to keep their audience, so they do a lot of local news, right? so, it's just really the time that you have, but you have to stay relevant with the music. You have to keep people entertained. You have to give them what they're there for. And that's why we do what we do. And I don't think that's really, I got to tell you, Adam, I'm not sure that's going to change as much. Our audience may get less, but the advertisers' results continue to be good. People are, and not only that, but when you're looking at media mixes where you take, let's say you take a digital campaign that you're running, you get a certain amount of gross impressions that you're doing to reach women 25 to 54 years old, and then you're doing a radio, and then you're doing a mix to reach that person with a message. Uh, that works extremely well, and that's the viability of using our different platforms to reach our target audience for our advertisers. And then money wise, it works for them, and it works. I mean, we wouldn't be in business if it didn't work. There are a lot of businesses that they don't work because didn't work. A lot of technology that doesn't work, right? And they go out of business. Kind of deal. All right, let's just do a new app. Oh, okay, great. There's bazillions of them. Great. But yeah, I think I'm going to spend money with this company that I know delivers the audience and knows more about the Black audience. And in our case, that's what we do. This is our business. So we're consultants. So in that respect, as the future looks out, the other part is that we've expanded our platforms into all different medias. I mean, over the years, yeah, we started out as radio, and then we started getting into digital, and then we created TV One, which is our TV network, and then added Clio, which is a side channel that you can pull up. That's content. So we cross promote ourselves. We have our digital assets. We have tons of websites that you wouldn't know are under our platform that we have great content with. So, we've continued to diversify, and not just, we're not just a radio company, we're a media company because we have all the stuff. And then throw in a few events, you throw in music, you throw in digital content that is, gets 4 million views because it went viral. But the only way they got it's because we're actually creating it, kind of a thing. And then you become relevant with the advertisers, and you become relevant with that. So I don't see that changing as much, because if you have good content, people coming to you, the delivery mechanisms will continue to change, right? I mean, Howard Stern left radio and went to Sirius XM. He built that platform because people needed that content. They wanted to hear that content, so they will pay for that content. And that's kind of the same thing here, but in our case, we're free, and we will remain to be free. So that's pretty cool. I have to pay for it, and that's probably why newspapers and they have to pay to get the AJC, right? I'm free.
Well, okay, so let me clarify my question a little bit. Radio, people have been predicting the death of radio for almost 100 years now. And I'm not surprised that that's how you heard my question, is radio dead? But that's not really what I was asking. I was asking, with the world, the way the world's changing, you clearly, perhaps your answer is simply that radio will continue to do the same things it's always done. But I was asking you if you thought about how the world might change and how radio might actually adapt to what does the new audience look like, do you think, in 10 years? That's really what I'm asking.
Oh, I see. How is the audience going to shift in regards to, I don't know the answer to that. And I think if I did,
you'd be a billionaire.
yeah, you know what? Or maybe I know, I'm just not going to tell you. Okay. I don't know. It's kind of like saying, how's music going to change? How's rock and roll going to change? How's hip hop going to change? How's classical music going to change? Who knows? As people absorb things, the one thing we do know is people want things when they want them, and they want them now. And the quicker we can get something to them, the person that comes to your door with your food delivered, really? Okay, come on. Everything is delivered. So I think that's probably part of just accessibility of having things that people can have. It's the same way in most businesses. I mean, you go online, buy a car, it'll show up in your driveway.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I'll be retired by then. Yeah.
Okay.
So it'd be someone else's problem. I've been dealing with it 30 years.
That's the short answer. I don't care.
Yeah.
Well, okay, last question.
All right.
Maybe you do care about this. If somebody wants to get into radio, a lot of my listeners are, some of my listeners are kids, and they might be captivated by the radio. Is it still the way to go to get a degree in journalism, or how do you suggest folks get into this business these days?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a really good question. So it really depends on what their passion is and where they see. If they're going to be creative and they say, you know what, I'm gonna I want to create, okay, or I want to write, or I want to be in business side. I want to be an accountant. I want to be an engineer. It really just kind of depends on what platform they want to go to. It starts with what is it they really want to do. If it's a because we're just like any other kind of business. I mean, I've got a controller. We have, people that do invoices. We have people that do data entry. So when you ask, okay, how do they get into it? I guess first it's like, okay, what is it the career that they're trying to do? The typical path would be, and especially nowadays, if it's an engineer, sound engineering, and SCAD's got a great program. There's places out there where you get great training, so you're prepared for the job that you're going to get. It's just like any other kind of business. If you're going to be a plumber and be in the plumbing career, you need experience, kind of doing that. So there's easiest. I mean, you can do a search engine, any search engine in a while, and put in what you like to do, and they'll pop out a bunch of jobs, right? Tons of them. You go, they're gonna. But ultimately, if it's something in our media, we have our website that's urban1.com. And then you pull up careers, and like for example, right now we just posted a promotions assistant job. It's kind of cool. You work with promotions. You kind of coordinate things. I've got an on-air position right now we haven't filled because budget wise, but an evening person on Magic, which is a great job, comes right after Ryan Cameron. We really have filled a lot of our jobs for it, but just you apply with it, but you have to be have some experience, because the other thing is this is Atlanta. It's a big market. Not really the starter market, but if I was looking for someone, if they do go to college, you got to remember only 38% of people go to college. It's that skill set of what you provide me, and if it is a good writer, someone that really knows how to communicate well, that's kind of good in a communications business to be able to communicate well. If they want to be on air. I'm sure you have you need a website. I know it might not be as cool as your IG or Twitter page. I got that. But when you have your built out brand that you've created, that's the first place to look for your content, to see what kind. And then, you post your videos on there of what you do. So, we have tons of people that send music all the time. That's great. So it just really depends on what career path you want to do, and then what skill set that you actually bring to us, because we're hiring a skill set. Now the other thing is, it's a lot more fun to be an accountant in media. Nothing wrong with my insurance brothers out there, but I got to tell you, man. So I had our receptionist just started, and she's also writes music. She's a songwriter, and she's like, all these artists are coming through Thursday. It's like her first week, and her eyes are like this, and she's meeting all these people that she's listened to. And then I see her in the media thing at the concert, and she's like, this is great. So, sometimes it's like, it's okay. You can have your one job that pays your bills, but you can also be exposed to all these other cool things that you didn't realize you're going to get exposure to. And from that, I've seen a lot of careers where someone's doing one thing, and then we grow them, and we say, hey, here's another opportunity. Why don't you go do that? And then all of a sudden they try that, like, oh man, this is really cool. But I know how to communicate. I've got an English degree. Awesome. You know how to communicate. Well, this would be perfect. Or, hey, you're going to do that. Or, hey, I'm a photographer, and I great. We've got digital positions that are videographers that shoot stuff and all. And you wouldn't think of it because you say radio. What the hell are they doing that? Well, it's all that digital content that we do, and all. So it's a long answer to you again, but
Great.
you know, I'm passionate about it, and I love to see bright young folks, and we hire them. Some of the great, I mean, Manny, who he's still in college. He was doing interviews on the couch with artists Saturday night because he proved himself doing things, because we're growing him as well. So there's like, that's kind of cool too, because think about it, he's 22. He's at the top state, one of the top stations in the country. It's pretty cool.
That is. Tim Davies, it's pretty cool that you took the time to talk to me, and so honestly too. Thank you. What a lot of fun.
All right. I'll see you around the hood.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see you too, audience. Thank you for checking us out one more time. If you like these videos, please like us, like that little button. It's so important to us. And let your friends know about this series too. We want to grow our subscriber base. If there's someone you'd like me to interview and you know them, send them my way. And if you don't know them, tell me who they are and I'll find them myself. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next time.